Welcome back to Season 3 of Rooted in Reaching. I'm your host, Marty Mecklenburg. We had a great conversation today with Sunjay Agtey, the VP of Revenue and Alliances for Nimbello. Good conversation, great content. Love to share it with you. Hope you enjoy the episode. Well, it is my great pleasure to be here today with Sunjay Agtey, of Vice President of Strategy for Nimbello. Sunjay, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell us what Nimbello is first, to set the stage, and then we'll go back in your history a little bit and talk about some of the other amazing entrepreneurial experiences you've had.
For sure. So Nimbello, it's a Fintech startup based in South Bend, Indiana. We specialize in accounts payable automation, mainly for the manufacturing and higher education industries. The company was just started by my father, Nimbello Agtey. He was a CPA, and kind of his thesis with starting Nimbello was where payroll was about 20 years ago. A lot of companies had it in-house. You had people, large departments, and then a lot of companies said it could be, probably better done by others and using software and technology. And so that same kind of mindset from payroll could be parallel to the accounts payable process.
Got it. So that was your father's vision when he started the company back in 20...
Yeah, it's about 15 years ago. So about 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
2011. Okay. 2011.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, that's great. And you now work as VP of Strategy for Nimbello, but
Correct.
You started on a different entrepreneurial journey earlier on in your career. Can you tell us how that happened, or tell us how you started?
Yeah.
You graduated?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in South Bend, Indiana, and then I went down to the Kelley School of Business down at IU.
Got it. Yep.
And I graduated. I actually came back to South Bend, had a couple internships with the accounting firm Crow.
Oh, yeah.
So after I graduated, I had a job with Crow on the audit side of things in South Bend. And then a few years later, I moved from the audit group to the transaction services group in Chicago. So I was helping out on companies that were buying and selling companies and being a part of that team. And then in 2009, kind of two things happened. One was one of the financial crises. So a lot of companies were no longer buying and selling companies, which meant they didn't need consulting firms for help. And then the second thing was Crow, to get to a certain level, you had to have your CPA. And I wasn't good at taking tests and still not good at taking tests. So they came up to me and a few other people and said, "Hey, you haven't been staffed on any projects. There's probably opportunity elsewhere." And so
it's a very gentle way to say that.
Yes, exactly. So that did open the door for me to explore other opportunities. And while my background was in finance and accounting, I had a good buddy who was actually from South Bend who had gone to Notre Dame. He was an early employee at Groupon, so we met up for a drink in Chicago, and he said, "Hey, I met this company Groupon. I think you'd love it. You should come interview and do it." And it worked out. I think we met on a Thursday. I had an interview on a Monday, and I was hired by Friday. It was,
fantastic.
Awesome.
And for those in the audience who maybe don't remember what Groupon is, what was Groupon again?
Yeah, so
what is it? I know it's still a thing. Yeah.
Good question. So when it started, Groupon was kind of a group buying platform where they would have a deal a day per different cities. So you could, get a very good discount on skydiving or laser hair removal, teeth whitening, or to a restaurant. But to get the discount, you had to have a certain number of people to buy it, and then the deal would be tipped or on to happen. So the goal would be, if I wanted to skydive, I would go tell Marty, or I'd tell Mike or Gary, "Hey, go buy this deal so we'd all get this discount."
Right. So was that your first real exposure to startup culture?
Yeah. I mean, that was complete 180 from, accounting,
I bet,
auditing to sales and a startup. I was one of the first 70 employees at Groupon. And when we started, we didn't really have too much of a sales playbook as they look for now, or much of a training. It was me and, 5 other colleagues in there. We met with the HR and the head of sales, and they kind of said, "Here's the phone. You two own Indianapolis. You two own Kansas City. You two own St. Louis." And owning it meant calling businesses in Indianapolis to say, "Hey, you may not have a website. You need a website, but we can get you a ton of people in your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So that was, yeah, I can imagine it was a big culture change from working at a a CPA office to
Yeah,
this freewheeling startup culture kind of vibe. Were you in Chicago at the time? Was this in
I
Chicago or
was.
did you?
So
Yeah.
I was in Chicago. They were in
Yeah.
kind of the old Montgomery Ward building
Oh,
on
yeah.
600 West Chicago. So it was great for someone who was young, and all the employees were, relatively young, just out of college, and
Yeah.
um, it was great, and it was funny. I think that group on it taught me two things. One, I loved kind of the startup pace and trying to figure things out. But prior to that, was just a big fan of Groupon. Even before working there, I would tell everyone, "Hey, have you heard of this
Yeah.
new company? It's really cool." And I think from that day, I joke that I'm I'm everyone's second favorite hype person, either
Okay.
behind like themselves or their mom. Like one of them's probably better, but besides that, if I
Yeah.
like something, I'm telling everyone about it.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, I remember Groupon myself using it a number of times for, yeah, Great Wolf Lodge or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, there were different things. There's a lot of experiential things in my memory,
yeah,
like
and that
skydiving or whatever it might be.
it was
Yeah.
because you wouldn't really go do that kind of on your own.
Right.
But if it's 50% off, you would buy it, and then oftentimes you'd think, okay, well, do I really want to jump out of a plane if it's 50% off? Right?
Yeah.
What security measures are there? But it was great.
Yeah. So you were there for a few years,
Yeah,
and then you moved to
HubSpot.
HubSpot.
So yeah, at the time, my wife and I were dating when I was at Groupon, and she'd gotten into a doctoral program at Boston College,
Got
and
it.
she said, we're probably not going to date long distance for 5 years. So at the time, I was fortunate enough to
Yeah.
work with Groupon. They were looking to start an outside sales team out in
Okay.
Boston, and
Oh,
so I was
perfect.
able to move out there, kind of be one of their first outside reps outside of New York in Boston. My wife got her PhD in education in Boston College, but
Yeah.
so I was still at Groupon. We were doing it. Groupon had gotten public, and after that, and this is kind of, I think, startup culture. One, you learn so many different things, but
Mhm.
once you go from not public to public, different different metrics change, different
Mm.
mindsets change, different people are probably better suited for different roles. And at that time, I was, kind of I was remote. I was looking for a different change, and
Yeah.
at the time, HubSpot seemed like the Groupon of Boston. It was everyone. You couldn't go anywhere without people talking about it.
Okay. Okay. It was a hot thing in Boston.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I was fortunate. Uh, I actually got introduced to them. They were having a charity call-a-thon to help. I think it was to raise awareness for like the like pet shelters
Oh, okay.
or fund, and they just kind of gave you a call list, a call script,
Yeah.
or to see who could raise the most amount of money, and I was able to raise the most amount of
Oh,
funds by by hitting up friends, and that was kind of during the interview process, and
yeah. So that
uh,
got some attention, I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so I was one of the first external hires they had made to the group that they call their channel partners, or who'd value added resellers who sold to we would sell to the marketing agencies there, who would
Got it.
then buy it and then sell to their clients.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So we'll circle back to this in a few minutes, but at the same time this was all happening, your father was on. There's a parallel story happening here, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And because you said Nimbello started in
Yeah.
2011
Yeah. Around
or
2009,
ish,
2011.
2009. Okay.
And
Yeah.
he correct. So he was the head of tax for Crow for many years, and
Yeah.
then left. Had a couple different business ventures. One had sold with some partners, and one had sold to CNA. But as I mentioned, right,
Yeah.
he had this vision. They had this vision. He started it, and so he was doing his own thing. But at HubSpot, as we were going through the training, they had, inbound marketing is what they were known for, and they classified personas, right? Anytime you're trying
Mhm.
to sell, you have different personas,
Mhm.
and they're the smallest group that would buy HubSpot, they'd kind of classify them as these owner ollies, or pure kind of one person shops
Yeah.
growing their business, kind of lifestyle business, and that's really
Okay.
what Nimbello had been. It was bootstrap. My father had started it. He had a good career before. I had one older sister, but we were both working professionals. So
Mm.
in my dad's eyes, he was chasing a problem and solving it. But, as long as you could employ people, pay them,
Yeah.
and, go on vacation and, and get to play golf, he was doing a
Yeah.
pretty good job, right?
Yeah. We started talking earlier. I was curious whether or not like your experiences with Groupon and HubSpot, like you were obviously telling your dad these stories. Hey, I'm doing this. We're doing this. Like, do you think part of that inspired him to say like, oh, I can do this too, or was there no relation? Was it just two
Yeah,
parallel things happening?
I think there were probably two parallel things. I'm not sure how much inspiration, but he would definitely ask for feedback. So I think whenever my sister, who lived in Chicago, or I'd come back, or our spouses would come back, there were kind of two common questions that would usually come up. One would be, "Hey, do you want to come work with us?" And we
Okay.
and we'd say, "No, we have a good thing, and
Yeah.
may not be able to afford our our market rates." And then
Yeah.
the second would be, "Hey, I'm working on this project, or I'm pitching this opportunity. What would you all do in your job?" Right?
Got it.
And 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 we'd give him tips, or he'd say, "Hey, show me how your CRM currently works, or what could you do?" And
Yeah.
then, we'd tell them, "Well, there's only one salesperson, it's you. So you
Right.
probably know what deals you're working on. You don't really need
Right.
to build this up, to follow it up." But
Right. But early on, he was trying to recruit you and your sister
correct.
pretty
Him, and
pretty
I think
early on
my
in the
mom,
process, and your mom too.
and
Yeah.
I think it was partly for the business, and probably partly to move back to South Bend.
Yeah. No, that's fair, right? That You
Yeah,
you kill two birds with one stone there, right?
exactly.
But you were living your life in Boston, working for
Correct,
HubSpot. Um,
correct.
where did the Second City piece come into this? Was that before or after?
So it was actually after. So my
Okay.
wife graduated her,
So
her
she gets
dental
her
program.
PhD. Yeah.
We were pregnant, expecting our first son, and we both had sisters with cousins, in Chicago, and kind of wanted to move back to the Midwest.
Got
So
it.
at the time, I was working for an ad tech startup, and they said you could work remote in Chicago.
Yep.
Um, Kavita didn't have a job at the time, but we moved to Chicago and was working with them, then worked for a healthcare tech startup, and after that, actually the same guy who helped recruit and hire me at Groupon,
Mm.
he he does HR, but he also is an improviser and actor on the side. That's kind of his primary thing. HR is on the side.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the time, he had posted a position at Second City.
Okay.
So I called, Dan up and said, "Hey, the
I'm
my
back
favorite
at.
job up to date is Groupon, and you helped me
Yeah.
get this. Can you tell me more about this job at Second City?" And he told me about it, and I said, "This is awesome." And for those who don't know, it's the improv comedy club based in Chicago
Yeah.
with the famous alum like Tina Fey, Steve Carell,
Right. A lot,
Belushi,
lot
a
of
lot of
great people started out there. Yeah.
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 And so it was great,
Mm.
and that job was pretty unique in the sense of um, their Second City's really known for three aspects that keep the business going. One is their theater productions on the stages where you go see the improv shows. And then the two others is their training center. So a lot of times, right, in Chicago, after college, you may go have a job, and you may find people by playing kickball or doing other things. Other people may
Mm.
just take improv lessons or comedy lessons, and
Yeah.
that's at Second City. And what they saw was a lot of the people who were taking these classes individually had different jobs, right? They were, working at consulting firms like PwC or Deloitte or
Yeah.
ad agencies. And they
Makes
said,
sense. But their passion was with the
right.
comedy work. Yeah.
But then Second City saw, there's probably a method to bringing improv strategy and training
Mm.
to the corporate world. So that third world, or Second City Works, was what I did, where we'd call on companies and say, "Hey, you could have a traditional training, or this," but getting an email from Marty telling you what to do, or your CFO, can fall on deaf ears. But if you have it acted out by improvisers
Yeah.
with a funny message, they'll remember that, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're supposed to do this. This is the priority for 2025, right? Or again, right, oftentimes we'd work with engineers or consulting firms, and people would be so passionate about the deck they built, but they're in the room, and you know, you can't read the room that everyone's falling asleep, but an improviser
Yeah.
could just pause and say, "Okay, you don't seem interested in this, Marty, but like, what do you want to
Yeah.
do?" So helping
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 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 So that's great. So you were helping set up those relationships between corporations who could benefit
Correct. The
from
different
these
trainings.
services and these trainings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what a varied career that you had. And that was what, like 7-year period,
Yeah, that was
10-year
probably from
period,
2009 to like probably 2017 or so.
2017.
Yeah.
I know you eventually you're obviously here,
Yeah.
you're back embedded in South Bend and building a community here. What what were your biggest takeaways at that point? Like, you're in Chicago, you're
Yeah.
like,
So
you learned, like, Groupon, HubSpot, Second City. Like, what were you where was your head at that point?
yeah. So and even in between, I had a fair amount of jobs, and my
Yeah.
friends and my kids joke that I've been fired a lot of times. My older son would would say, "Hey, Dad, how many times have you been let go?" But I think it's the entrepreneur, or the in me, or at least the the desire to keep doing more, or finding something, and once it's kind of figured out, or I feel I figured it out, wanting to try
Yeah.
something new. And during that time, I was fortunate to get my executive MBA through Notre Dame. Notre Dame had a program in Chicago, but each time I would leave a different role, Kavita, my wife, she'd say, you know, would you want to work with your dad? It is
Mm.
a startup. They're trying to
Right,
figure out this accounts
right,
payable space. It's
right,
small.
right.
They need a salesperson. You're pretty good at sales and growth.
Yeah,
But each time, the circumstances didn't seem right, or but that final time moving from Second City uh, to Nimbello, the timing made sense. It was during the pandemic was one
mm,
during it, so we'd
yeah,
been looking to move outside of Chicago, looking for something
yeah,
different. Also, stability. I felt the different jobs, or certain companies within the sales role, especially startups that would have, they joke the hockey stick growth.
right,
Um, a lot of times salespeople are just numbers, or you could be in
yeah,
President's Club, 1 month or 1 year, and then have a family issue or not selling them. They're like, you're on a performance plan, or letting go, right? And
yeah,
so you
yeah,
could chase money and be good, or, you know, we joke that it would take something probably pretty terrible to be fired by your father. So
right,
I
right,
was like,
right,
okay,
right.
stability could be good, and growth, or helping him
Yeah,
grow.
yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, and it's a kind of interesting situation too because yes, it's a startup, right? Your dad started this thing from scratch. It's a tech company. It's also in some ways the oldest business in the world, a family business,
Right.
right? That he was recruiting you back to.
Correct.
Tell us what that conversation was like. There, when you call, did you call your dad and say, "Dad, I'm finally ready to talk about this," or
I
did he ask you one day and you surprised him by saying, "Sure"?
Yeah, I did call him. I said,
Yeah,
look, I've been talking about this. I think,
yeah,
every time I would switch jobs, and Kavita would say, would you want to do it? I'd have a cool opportunity like Second
yeah,
City, or
yeah,
something
yeah,
else
yeah,
that
yeah,
seemed like it could be another group on our HubSpot. But what I realized was what could be the next group on our HubSpot was actually financial software, SaaS type software for
yeah,
the office of the CFO, right? And so looking at, my dad had been, talking about accounts payable automation for 15 years.
yeah,
And now I've been at the company for 5 years, and we're still talking to people, and people are doing it without software. And so
yeah,
he was, ahead of his time. And when you think of, the two industries Nimbello serves primarily, higher education and manufacturing, they're not really early adopters, right? So
right. That's true. Yeah,
they, they're big companies that are kind of anti startup establishments, and the fact of being able to move nimble. So,
yeah,
if something is working, or you're paying your vendors, or you haven't had a big mistake, or not too much turnover in the AP, there's no real need
yeah,
to change per se.
yeah,
Except for now, when a lot like family businesses you mentioned, right, are the oldest businesses, a lot of the manufacturing companies we sell to, or do, they have new generation of ownership, or new
right.
leadership, right? Or even, some of the things that people in South Bend are doing, are looking at, instead of selling to private equity outside of the city, what local owners could take over, or,
Yeah,
continue to run it. And those people, when they run it, they're looking to say, let's not do things the way we've been
sure.
doing it. If technology can make a job easier for our team, or cheaper and more
Right,
efficient,
right, right,
let's
right.
do it, right?
That's interesting. So that has been a moment of opportunity for Nimbello, that leadership transition,
Correct.
taking on some new technology to make the
Yeah.
business more efficient or modernize.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Usually new change of ownership, or luckily, being in this northern Indiana area and having a lot to do manufacturing, right? I joke that I want Nimbello or us to be the Abe Froman of the RV world, right? The sausage king or the AP
Yeah.
king of
Yeah.
RVs, right? We're fortunate enough to have, one of the largest RV, and marine OEM suppliers as one of our
Right.
clients. We have one of the
Right.
largest RV OEMs as a client. We have, the very large Catholic university in town. So
Yeah.
we have large, good clients on the Nimbello's, radar and doing it. And so it's
Yeah.
really just telling others to do it. So oftentimes when you're scaling, you can just throw more people at a problem or solve it, or again, you can also scale. So it's either, sometimes change of ownership or change of mindset of how to be more efficient, or
Right.
saying it's very difficult to pay or find someone who wants to do data entry now. The kid from Clay High School or from
Yeah. Sure.
college isn't wanting to do this as often if you don't have technology in the space.
Right. That's going alongside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, that's great. So you came back
Yeah.
and took over. Was it how was it working for your dad all of a sudden after?
Yeah. It's funny. We would joke when we wouldn't come back or do it was, one, you may not be able to afford us. And two,
Right. Right.
the family vacations were good. You only had to talk about work, or
Right.
mom would be a little bit frustrated when you talk about work,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't want to mess the dynamics up. And,
Yeah.
uh, the dynamics are fun. The funny quirks that may be coming out on the golf course or at home, sometimes you see them in meetings, but you also see that same passion that he had for 15 years. We were just recently on, a presentation with a local company, and he was all gung ho
Yeah.
to come to come and present. And, as we've grown, we've brought on additional leaders, people from
Sure.
outside companies, and growing. And sometimes they say, it may not look so formal if the president of the company is sitting down on this meeting. They may not think, how busy are you? But
Uh
the other way is, this is the service you get,
right.
right?
This is
You're
the kind of
so
personal attention you're gonna get. Yeah.
get, and we are busy, and we have, like I said, very large clients. He just is really passionate about what he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Where does the name come from? Nimbello.
Yeah.
Because it's a cool name. It's actually pretty memorable, but I think the company had a different name at first.
Yeah, correct. So the company's original name was Easy Access because it was meant to be like you're able to easily access your AP, get it easily into your system. Um, but as we were looking to grow and kind of scale and kind of move from, a true kind of lifestyle business to, something that would make the region proud and a good
Yeah.
software company, we wanted a different name. And as a lot of startup companies would do, we went to the internet, the powers of be to different things, had
Yeah.
different freelancers come up with names. We gave them a prompt of,
Okay.
good domain names available,
Yeah.
kind of certain syllables, one word, and they came up with Nimbello. And, we did like it. It does seem very nimble.
Yeah. It's got
Uh,
Nimble built into it.
yeah,
Right.
so
Which is
it
great.
it it has that, but
Yeah.
no meaning. And I normally wear a shirt. So my father, he was in the merchant navy, and in his office, he's got different flags that used to say easy access based on the,
Oh,
the
okay.
the flags that they
Oh, the
have.
flag code for it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so
Gotcha.
we have shirts for some of the employees that just say Nimbello and the flag. So at least there's some meaning to his ties back to his merchant navy
Yeah. Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So when you came back, you're coming back with a lot of experience at this point, sales and market. I don't know marketing, but sales and different roles at some pretty cutting edge companies. What did you bring to Nimbello?
yeah. I I brought, I would say, that sales strategy and the mindset of, on the podcast you talk to quite a bit of entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
I think some of the benefits I've seen from going to different meetings or startup week is they've got great ideas. They but they also are invincible, right? They feel they can solve anything,
Yeah.
but it can
Yeah.
also hurt them because you can be distracted or chasing too many things, right? And so as he was running the business, it was a lifestyle business. He was very agile. Whatever you want, he could do, or the software team and our great team of developers and
Okay. So
support could build it, right?
they could customize things, build
And it
specific
right.
versions of it. Okay. Yeah.
And it was great. But if
Yeah.
you're trying to scale, that's terrible. You can't,
Yeah.
you can't do that. It's difficult to manage and
Yeah.
maintain.
Yeah.
So we came and we said, okay, what is working well for all of our customers? What are the best practices? And even that, he had different industries, right? We have many different industries, and
Yeah.
each industry has a different accounting system or ERP
Yeah.
that you work with. But we saw the more we could, you know, in the manufacturing space, in the RV world, a lot of them use Microsoft Dynamics 365. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just a very large one for enterprise customers. And you saw the more you could get familiar with how the data would flow between our system and that accounting system, the more familiar it was. So then the next time you
Mm-hmm.
got a customer on that, they felt comfortable. You knew how to integrate because you've done it before.
Yeah,
And so
makes sense.
then you could just speak the language. And in fact, one of my mentors at HubSpot, he would always joke, the riches are in the niches, right? And so the
Mm-hmm.
more specific you could be, the more people would realize you're an Nimbello, right? And even if you go back to Abe Froman, right? This the
Right.
sausage king, right? It's
Right.
a very small thing, but everyone knew
Yeah.
who it is.
Yeah. 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 How did your dad was at Crow for a long time, and then he did some other things. How did he get his first manufacturing customer? Did he have relationships in manufacturing, or like
Eh,
how did that come about?
yeah, we may have to cut this part out.
Okay.
But it was actually, I think, just kind of word of mouth, and again
Mm.
being, local to it. And he had
Yeah.
some relationships, and we were actually just talking to one of our larger manufacturing clients, and they remembered being approached by my father
Mm-hmm.
and one of our colleagues, for a few years. And I think like any good entrepreneur, you try to, you don't give up, and you keep coming
Yep.
back. And
Yep.
finally they said, our current software is not working. You're local. We want to give you a shot. And
Okay.
and so that was it. And even
Just
the,
persistence for sure, huh?
yeah, and
Yep.
even our large university client in town, and
Yep.
we've got, Northwestern University of Chicago of it, but it was more local. And I think that is, moving back to South Bend, one of the things that I really love about the city and is, if you have, there are a lot of people who do AP automation.
Yep.
East Coast, West Coast, a lot of people who have more funding
Okay.
to it, but our software is good. It's proven, right? It's, no one really churns. A lot of people talk about
Mm-hmm.
churn metrics.
Mm-hmm.
People don't leave our software due to the fact that it works
Got it.
and
It
customer
won't.
service. But the buyers, the people in Elkhart, in Goshen, in Bremen, and
Mm-hmm.
northern or southern Michigan, they do want to work with someone local. I think,
Yeah.
that if you can call and talk to the president, or you can just drive down and your software does the same thing as others and it's
Yeah.
priced well, more times than not, I think they'd give the nod to the local
So
business.
that's a value add for a
Correct.
customer to have you here in the
Yeah.
region. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So South Bend Elkhart region is not well known for its burgeoning software
Right.
company sector. How was it? I mean, do you feel like who else is out there with you going alongside of you? And do you feel like pioneers in the software development space in this region?
Yeah. Good question. I think there are some great names out here. And, one of the things that I would go back to was Heartland Ventures, what they did of, you know, being kind of the money backer, trying to find technology and say, hey, there's great
Mm,
technology out in the East and West, but our businesses here may not be familiar with them.
right,
And we'll bring those technologies to these businesses. And we kind of were approaching it differently of, we are that technology company.
right,
These businesses still don't know we exist.
right.
And why go East or West when you have something here? But, there
Yep,
are great technology companies and that are just doing it right. Before we were talking about Truck 10
yep.
or different names, or any of the, the portfolio companies that Tracy and those people are doing it. It's great.
Tracy Graham at Graham
Yeah.
Allen Partners. Yep.
It's great to see. And there's even smaller ones that are coming out and about. And I think
Yeah.
being more collaborative, and, the co-working spaces here at, Stockroom, or even at Momentum,
Yep.
the more you're out, you see them, right? You go to these events, the startup weekend, you think maybe you're the only one doing it, but then you go see and you see, oh, there's a lot more people here doing it. How do we
Yep.
elevate their voices?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We just had the chance to co-sponsor Notre Dame's Race to Revenue demo day, which was last Friday. This was like 11 student groups and two Ukrainian groups presenting their pitches. There was not a non-monetary pitch. It was just
Right.
a chance to share their ideas. But you see, like most of these student groups are working on like very cutting edge entrepreneurial ideas, something very nichey. So to your point, riches in the niches, right?
Yeah.
That's it's actually a sales mantra that I wish a lot of our entrepreneurs would focus a little bit more on.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, when you think of it, it's great, right? Like,
Yeah.
everyone's afraid again of the entrepreneur. They want it big or they want a rocket
Yeah.
ship or a great exit. But
Yeah.
if you can own 90% market share in anything, you're doing pretty good, and then you can move on to something else,
Right.
right? And it's just
Right.
a lot easier. HubSpot has this flywheel of kind of referrals or just
Yeah.
references, so it's just good. And almost even the entrepreneurs of South Bend are right. I'm pretty passionate about trying to bring more talent to South Bend
Yep.
and retain talent, right? And so the more COVID kind of helped of it's a good cost of living. If you have families, it's easy to
Yep.
get around. There's minimal traffic.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so the more people here of South Bend or the South Bend Elkhart area to live in, and that you could create your own startup or get good talent, the more they'd come
Yeah.
here.
You're actually an absolute poster child for what we want to see in this region in the sense that a talented person who came back to the region. So,
Yeah.
getting that talent back in the region and you're building a company, right, that's employing people. So, I mean, that's,
Yeah. I do get excitement out of that
yeah,
of joining and trying to tell other friends to come back or to see it. But
yeah,
I would kind of go back to the second city and say yes and to that comment of saying it was good. And we were talking before that we started that it'd be even better if it's not a boomerang to South Bend, but it's just anyone to
sure.
South Bend. And
Yep.
and even that, I think the next step or evolution would be in 5 years. And I was telling Susan for this that don't ask or act surprised when someone says, "Why are you in South Bend?" Or like,
Right.
"Why are you here?" Right?
100%.
If someone's
Yes.
here, there's a reason and a valid reason, and it's not because their spouse works for the university
Right.
and
Right.
they just stayed.
Right.
It's
Or they came back to take care of an elderly
yeah,
parent or something like that, which is
it's
sometimes what
I
you
had
hear. Yeah.
0 roots. I just
Yeah.
thought this was the place to be.
Yeah. 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 Oh boy. I love that day too. I'm looking forward to that day too. So, speaking of roots, like, so you're deep in Nimbello. Did your sister come back too?
So she didn't.
I was
They, I
thinking of
mean, they
that.
bought a lake house in by Eagle Lake, but
Okay.
her husband actually joined us also. So
Okay.
he's now
Okay. So it
our chief
truly is a
product
family
officer.
business.
So
Yeah.
it is. It may drive my sister, my mom, and my wife crazy of how much conversation is talking, but it is kind of funny. The boys have now shifted from how many times have you had a different job, Dad, to who's the real boss of Nimbello? And
Okay.
it always comes back to my mom actually is the real
Is the real
is
boss.
probably
The
the
real,
CEO.
real boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So one of the things I was really impressed with too is like, so you moved back. I mean, obviously you grew up here, so you knew the region really well, but then you were gone for a while and you moved back. You have gotten very intentionally involved in the community. Um, First of all, why? Like, did you come back with that mindset? Like, if I'm going to come back, I'm not just going to come back and live here. I'm going to come back and be a player,
Yeah.
an influencer, or somebody who's making this place better.
I don't know if I came back with the mindset of doing that. I think just living and seeing what was going on in Boston and Chicago and the other cities, just, you know, it's difficult to try to make change in those cities or right
Yeah,
anything. It's
yeah, yeah,
South Bend is almost the startup of they're delayed, but you can make an impact, right? And
yeah,
growing up, I was fortunate to have, see different great families who helped contribute, to the zoo or to the civic theater or to the Morris, right? They're great family names
sure.
to be a part
Yep,
of it. And as those families are aging out or different things, there's so many wonderful causes to be a part of. And with, young children here, or if we do want more talent here, um, you want a booming ecosystem or
yeah,
events. So one way to help make sure that happens is to be involved, right? So being able to join boards that we're passionate about or trying to see where people are doing good things, the more you talk to, the more you're able to figure out where you can help out.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting point because, 10 years ago, you didn't hear people talk about quality of place as a tool for economic development. But nowadays, it is sort of really seen as if this isn't a great place to live, we're going to struggle to attract and retain the kind of talent we need.
Right.
Has that been an issue for Nimbello? Like, have you struggled to attract the right kind of talent?
We've been fortunate to have, again, it's almost like our employees and customers, uh, we've had some pretty good tenure employees. So once we've found them, we haven't left. But as we've grown, we've found talent here that's been good and
That's
done
good.
it. And then, just leaning into remote workforce of
Right.
finding talent, of needs, been able to
Sure.
find people, wherever may be. But it has been great to see and kind of just retain talent in the area.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the causes you're involved in right now?
Yeah, so I'm on the board. Our kids go to Stanley Clark, so I'm
Yeah.
on the board there. I went there when I was younger, so anytime I meet someone, they joke that I try to pitch them on sending their kids to Stanley Clark, but that's probably true.
I mean, as a board member, that's not
Yes.
a terrible role for you to play. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be also on the board and involved with In Focus. So again,
Yeah.
kind of the concept of, you know, we have a lot of great organizations. There's a lot of talent available locally or not even local, but who could come
Yeah.
here and better help serve the community. So on that, and then also one of the organizations is Civic Theater,
Okay.
on that board, and just
Oh, great.
again we just saw they just had a great performance of Waitress that was on, and
I also saw it.
yeah, what did
Yeah.
you think?
It was surprisingly good. I mean,
Yeah,
really quality
yeah.
theater. I was amazed.
And I had to keep reminding myself that these people have day jobs. They're,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
do other things and they're
Yeah.
so good. And
The lead is one of my neighbors.
yeah,
Yeah.
see, and it's
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. And our kids just finished a 2 week camp, and their camp sell out, and it was a
Oh, that's
production
great.
of Snow White, and I don't even know how, and the kids range anywhere from ages 6 to, middle school, but
Okay.
how in 2 weeks they could learn lines, learn blocking, and it was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it was great.
And honestly, not unlike the improv, like kind of a good life skill, right? Getting up in front of a
Oh,
crowd,
yeah,
being able to articulate, being flexible.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. That's very cool. That's very cool. So, yeah, back to Nimbello for a minute. Where are you going from here? Like, what do you see as next?
Yeah, so we've been fortunate to see a lot of great growth. When we started, like I said, we were probably, less than 2 million in annual recurring revenue. We're growing towards, 10 million in recurring revenue. So it's constantly just getting better. Uh, learning and doing more in the manufacturing space. We also, we recently were certified. There's a large ERP system that does a lot in higher ed and manufacturing called Workday. So we just became, official partners with them.
Remind our audience what ERP stands for.
Yes. Enterprise resource planning are essentially the main accounting software that kind of the brains behind the operations of the technical stuff. So a lot of the data that is in there, if you're buying tables or microphones,
Hmm.
you place that in there and say, I, I want to buy 10 microphones for $1,000. Then you get a bill, and you'd have to put that in and say, hey, we've received 10 microphones for $1,000. Now we
Yeah.
have to pay them.
And so what Nimbello does is it
So Nimbello would
talks.
it talks to that accounting system
Yeah.
and basically improves the process to say, as soon as in this example, the microphone company will send you the bill, it normally comes in an email inbox.
Yeah.
And then someone has to open the email. They have to see, did we buy them? Did we receive them? Does it cost all that money? If we only received 8, we have to email Marty, hey, where are the other 2?
Right.
Our software pretty much takes it from the email and uses the integration and the connection to that accounting software, or the ERP as we talked, and has all that database. So if all the data is accurate, it then just goes in and says, hey, we pay our suppliers, our vendors
Yeah.
on Thursday. Please pay the microphone company $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So that takes that, just
Yeah.
streamlines that entire process.
Yeah.
Does a lot of the work for whoever's job that is.
Correct. It
Got
makes
it.
it a lot
Yeah.
easier, and it uses AI, but it's like a Tesla, right? You're still going to need someone to be in the car to drive it or see it drive.
Right. 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 Makes sense. That's great. So just continued growth. Are you focusing on sectors like manufacturing, universities, healthcare, or
Yeah, so we're continuing to double down on it.
yeah,
We had signed University of Virginia not too long ago, and they're happy. So
congratulations. Yeah.
thank you. And so just doubling down, and again, it's within here. The one unique thing of this software is it's not like it could help, an RV OEM sell an extra fifth wheel, which could maybe help us sell more. But it also means, you may have gone to Grace College or Goshen College or worked at Crow together, and now you're struggling.
Yeah.
You're trying to see, how do I make my business more efficient? And again, you can talk to Marty, and he says, hey, we're using Nimbello. And someone's okay to make that reference because it's not
Hmm.
giving anyone a leg up. It's just helping a former coworker or colleague
Sure. Do their
do their
job
job
better.
better.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's great. So, thinking about entrepreneurship in the region right now, obviously you've got a really great background, whole family background. Your father's an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you've worked for some great firms. What what advice would you have for a 25-year-old entrepreneur right now or a 45-year-old entrepreneur who is trying to start something
Yeah.
new?
I mean, right, like, I think the ones I've seen successful is really usually for starting the company, there's usually someone on the technical side. If the
Yeah.
most of a lot of stuff needs software now, so needs a technical side,
Yeah.
and then someone kinda needs to be able to be on the sales side or explain it, right? And sometimes the technical person can also sell, but you kinda want those 2
Mhm.
things, and then, like, a lot of when I love how I built the podcast, right? It's great. I don't know if you've heard of
Yep.
it, but
Yep. It's a great podcast.
um,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the similarities you hear in those stories can be so simple but there is a pain or a problem, right? Like if it's a problem for you, try to quantify it. If it's just you, you may not, it may be a very niche audience and you've already, hit
Right.
the
Right.
total addressable market. But if, if not, there are probably a lot of people like you, right? So when I came back to South Bend, I was working
Yeah.
remote, and there weren't a lot of co-working spaces in
Right.
South Bend, right? I was used to Chicago, you had, gyms you could go to. You had
Mm.
coffee shops, but you had gyms and dedicated like WeWorks.
Yeah.
And here all you had was Regis and no knock on them, but it's
Sure.
not this. But now, Stockroom's solving a problem,
Right.
Momentum
Right.
solving a problem. So
Right.
I would give that advice to the entrepreneurs of, do you have someone technical? Do you have someone who could help sell the vision?
Yeah.
And, is there a problem? Can you quantify it? And it doesn't have to be, too big, but, uh,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I mean, that makes sense. Like, I like that a lot. Is there a problem and can you quantify it?
right,
Right? Because otherwise, it maybe just you have a pet peeve about something.
right,
But if you can quantify it, then you say, oh, okay, it's not just me. A bunch of other people have this problem, and here's how we've just measured it.
right,
Now I can look at it and say, maybe there's something we could do about this.
right.
Yeah.
And then I would say probably another one is, and this is probably a lot of my roles and experience has been kind of in SaaS or
Mm,
in, software as a service, but it's right. If you're going to work so hard and depending on what your goal is for the company, but it's a lot easier to sell a company when it has, recurring revenue or
right.
not all the revenues is project based or based on you. Cause then you don't, when you retire, no one wants the business because they all came because of you, Marty. Right. So
Right.
it's, can you make it, you know, kind of monthly recurring like the Netflix subscriptions or the car washes or the self-storage units. Those are
Right.
the models that you maybe want to do or can do well at.
Okay. That's great. That's actually really great advice. Um, what do you, so wrapping up here a little bit, but
Yeah.
I love that you and your dad built this thing right here. I love that you're from here. Like, that's a really inspirational story because if we had 10 more of you and 10 more of your dad and mom, like, how great would that be for the region? Um, what are outside of the Civic Theater, you've got kids. Like, what are you doing in South Bend? And
Yeah.
what are you doing in Elkhart, Goshen?
Yeah.
Like, what are your favorite things here?
Yeah.
What's working for you?
Well, we love the zoo.
Yeah,
In fact, the people who run these different organizations
yeah,
are great. And Josh and the zoo,
yeah.
we were fortunate they had an auction item where kids could have a sleepover at the zoo, and it was
Oh,
kind of like a
cool.
night at the zoo. And I think our kids may have been a bit much because I'm not sure if they're doing it again, but they love the experience, right?
Yeah, it's a neat experience. Yeah.
That was great. Every year St. Pat's Park kind of has this nature run, walk, and scavenger hunt, so the kids
Okay.
love doing that. There's some cool artisan markets kind of on the south side by the large library down there. Kind of one in the fall and the spring. So we like going to
Down by where's that? Sorry.
it's kind of off. I think it's near off of Kern Road, but it's like a
Okay,
South
by
Bend
the
artisan
yep,
market.
yep. I know what you're talking about. The far south
Yeah,
library, part of the system. Yep,
yeah.
yep.
So, in doing that, the kids love the Southland Cubs. They're doing a great thing. Those renovations are are awesome. And then, I think what you all are doing and Bethany and what, Regina started that
Yeah.
just the collaboration and partnerships between South Bend and Elkhart. Um, I think growing up before, it seemed like they wouldn't talk to each other. Like it was very like kind of territorial, and even Notre Dame, right? But now
100%.
everything seems
Yeah.
collaborative, right? Eddy Street Commons,
Yeah.
Notre Dame kind of wants to claim us. We can claim them.
Yeah.
Elkhart wants to claim South Bend. We want to claim them. But
Yeah.
the restaurant that Kurt and Navarre are putting out, and
Yeah.
other people, it's great, right? And the Jackson Rooftop. Um,
Yep.
so we love being in South Bend, and we like supporting local businesses, and we like taking the kids to the botany shop and River St. Joe. So
Oh, that's fantastic. That's all great stuff.
yeah,
Yeah. I do love that too. I think, it's obviously not just the South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership, but we're all like approaching it with a lot of intentionality. But to me, it's no big deal to say, oh, I'm going to go out to dinner in Elkhart tonight.
yeah,
And I don't think 10 years ago would have thought that.
correct,
Or, maybe going to Venturi's Pizza in Goshen as like
exactly,
a rare adventure. But now it's like, okay, yeah,
yeah,
let's head out to Goshen, do a night in Goshen, do a night in Elkhart, and vice versa, do a night in South Bend.
yeah,
It's such a fantastic feeling to have those options because
yeah,
it makes what's a smaller city feel like
exactly.
a bigger place to be.
And we would joke when we were leaving Chicago that we were just moving to the eastern suburb of Chicago, and they're
Yeah.
like, "The lake?" And, it's my
Yeah.
wife still works in Chicago and commutes, and
Oh,
it's
does she
an
really?
hour and a
Yeah.
half to, like she works on Michigan Avenue, but even the South Loop, you can get there from, an hour and
Yeah.
15, and,
Yeah.
from Naperville or Barrington on the west side,
Yeah.
north sides of Chicago and stuff, it's just as long. So, if we could maybe even pull some of those restaurant tours, or, I joke with friends, there's a large group called Let Us Entertain You. But if,
Okay.
they're putting, restaurants in Oak Brook or different things, we have the same amount of people
Right.
here, and enough talent at, Notre Dame and with
Right.
the health systems and with the Notre Dame games that they could be sustainable, and the rent is probably, cheaper here. So,
I would imagine it's much cheaper.
yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Anything else you want to share before we
No,
sign
I
off?
mean,
I'm
really enjoyed this experience. Been excited, been looking forward to it. So I'm glad we were finally
Yeah,
able to
I'm
get
sorry it took
going.
so long to connect. I know
Oh
that
no,
I think Susan introduced us many months ago, and I think we had just finished up season 2, and
yeah.
we are kicking off season 3. Anyway, great to have you. You were always on the list. So like when season 3 starts,
Well, I'm
we're
glad
gonna
that we
get
were here.
Sunjay on here. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
thank you
thanks for
so
being
much.
here, and I can't wait to get this episode aired for the
All right.
community to hear more about your story.
Thanks.